Lord. And also, we'd like to pray for our servicemen and women overseas and help keep them out of harm's way. And dear Lord, let us make wise and just decisions as we conduct county business this afternoon. These and all the blessed in my Heavenly Father's name, amen.
Amen. Would all citizens rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business is approval of the consent agenda. There were some corrected minutes that have been distributed to everyone. Have they had a chance to read those? And if so, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, Madam County Attorney, item number 2 is a presentation of a resolution in memory of Jack Miller, and if you'd be kind enough to read that for us.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be honored to. So we have a resolution and it states, whereas the Honorable John D. Jack Miller Jr. departed this life on February 19, 2018, and whereas Mr. Miller was first elected to the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors in November of 1995 to represent the Saluda District, and whereas Mr. Miller continued to faithfully serve the citizens of the Saluda District and later the Harmony Village District until his death, and whereas Mr. Miller served on many local and regional boards and commissions, and he represented the county and board as legislative liaison for many years, and whereas Mr. Miller's steadfast loyalty to the citizens of Middlesex County, his ability to ask the tough questions, his artful use of wit and humor, and his dedication to the job made him a respected local government leader throughout the region and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Middlesex County that it be fully known to all those who shall follow, to wit, that while the County of Middlesex, the Board of Supervisors, the citizens of the Harmony Village Election District, the staff and employees of the local government, and all those relatives and friends will surely mourn Mr. Miller's legacy of leadership, public service, and dedication will inspire others for future generations. May the county be so privileged to find another civic-minded leader to step forward and fill the emptiness created by his death. Adopted the 6th day of March and the 2018th year of our Lord.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to ask the family to come forward and that. This is it.
Yes, sir, sorry.
No problem. Maybe we'll get over here in front of the seal. Smile there. Take one. Thank you all. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and open up the public comment period. Anybody would like to speak, please come forward and state your name and address and let us hear what you have on your mind.
Monica Sanders of Topping, Virginia. I want to publicly thank Wayne Jesse and Chip Holt for voting against the budget and for trying to be good stewards of the money that a lot of us don't have a lot of. And elections have consequences, and so the people who voted for it may have somebody running against them when they come up again. If somebody will just say, I will be a good steward of your money, and I'll stop raising taxes every single year. They did that in Gloucester County. It worked very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Next speaker, please. Don't everybody speak at once. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and move on to item number 4, constitutional officers. We have a report only from the treasurer on pages 45 through 47. Then we move on to agency and staff reports. Do we have anybody from the Department of Transportation? Yes. Joyce, come forward. You must have snuck in on me. I didn't see you.
Sorry. I apologize. I was not here the last month or so. I was out on medical leave, but I'm back. So my first order of business is to, if you've asked me for something and I hadn't responded, please let me know. I'm trying to catch up. I have like 5,000 emails to read. But the maintenance area headquarters here has been busy patching potholes and working to trim trees and do things like that in the county. We also have been we also partner with the local groups that pick up trash, and I have been trying to keep track of some of that, but we hauled off 8 tons of garbage trash that was picked up along the side of the roads by either inmates or groups that volunteer. So anyway, I want to give thanks to those folks that help us keep the roadsides clean so that we can do other things like clean and repair the culverts on 33 and things like that. We've been ditching and cleaning out pipes in the middle portion of the county, so we've done about 3 or 4 miles of work along about 8 or 9 different roads there, so we're working our way down. We've been clearing cross pipes and beaver ponds, and we're getting ready to mow grass, so the state forces will be mowing grass this year on the primary and secondaries. We also have almost wrapped up the paving here on 17. They should be done in the next week or so, and then we'll start having our surface treatment come in on the the secondary roads, and I'll give a list of those once the contractor gets here, because I give it to you and then they don't show up for a little while. So I'll give it to you like right before. And then also next month is our annual secondary 6-year plan workshop and hearing. So we'll be getting together to solicit public comment for road improvements based on the funding that's available in the plan. So I'm going to send that to Matt, and he will have that for you for your board packet for next month. So you'll have time to review that with what's available. And I think that, and the boat landing, we are almost complete with the work that we're doing there, and it should be open in the next week or so. So that's all I have.
Several of us were up in Jamaica yesterday, and I got to ride on the last piece of state-maintained road that isn't paved. So that's going to go away sometime fairly soon.
The board's done a good job.
Just a question on the paving on 17. Mm-hmm. It just didn't, that pavement didn't look tired to me before it was repaved. Was it?
We do, the road itself is measured, and it may not look as if it's ready to be replaced, but we don't want to wait until it gets to the point. So we try to, we have a rating system, and so we look at pavements, and they have grades like you get in school, and when the pavement gets to a certain condition, we try to bring those up, and we try to we're trying to, keep the corridors open, 17, 33, and stuff like that.
Thank you. It was just
Paved.
curiosity.
Yeah. It was alligator cracked and some other stuff going on that you don't see when you're flying down the road. You don't see all the potholes and stuff, but yeah.
Well, we were driving the speed limit.
Did I say flying down the road? Sheriff's not here, right?
That is true.
Okay.
But that is true because, by me living on 17 and going to the mailbox, you can see the roads cracked.
Yeah.
If you're driving 55 miles an hour, you can't notice.
Yeah.
But 17 was really cracked up.
Yeah, some places may have potholes in areas that look really bad, but the rest of the whole segment isn't as bad as a whole section is alligator cracked or has some sort of fatigue that we need to take care of.
Understood. Thank you.
One quick question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know whether I've thanked you enough for the replacing that traffic light at Cook's Corner. It is so much safer. Now, when you drive up, when you got a green light to go straight, but you want to turn left, and you see that flashing yellow, you certainly know that you've got to give way to the oncoming traffic. And I really want to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I was with Rotary in Kiwanis a couple weekends ago cleaning up Town Bridge Road, and I noticed there were some surveying stakes with green and white flags and then a white paint that said VDOT on the road. I saw those on Town Bridge, I've seen them on Dirt Bridge, I've seen them elsewhere. Do you know if that's VDOT related or what that is?
Sometimes we mark those in advance of where we want our traffic counters to go. Sometimes traffic counters are tubes that you see, and then sometimes they're on the side of the road on a pole, like a satellite type looking piece of equipment. So
It's
if
like a
you,
disturbed area of ground and then like
Yeah.
what looked like a white trash bag over top of it.
yeah, either it's for survey, for something that we're looking, we resurveying the road for our GIS information, or usually those are like traffic counts, things like that. But we're not, there's no projects planned on Town Bridge or Dirt Bridge or any of those roads in the plan. So it's not anything that we're doing in conjunction with the project.
Got it.
Probably just data collection of some sort.
Mr. Chairman, hi. I want to thank you, too, for coordinating on the trash pickup around the county. I know I actually saw the front-end loader loading some of the bags that have been picked up. I have a question about the mowing, and on some of the main roads, I believe that VDOT, the contractor, is to pick up the trash before or right after it's mowed. But I had been told that that wasn't going to happen in May, during that May mowing. Is that still the case? Because of a lack of funding or lack of...
Our contractors won't be mowing in May, but we will be mowing the grass, so we will make an effort to pick up debris before we mow the grass, because we don't want it strewn everywhere.
Right.
So yeah, we will the primaries will make a sweep before we mow.
Okay.
We have teams put together to mow 17 from Caroline to Gloucester, so that section, and then local folks will be doing 33 and 3. But they will take up the trash as they go along.
Okay, great. Thank
Yep,
you.
because they'll be mowing all summer, so.
Right.
I actually have one more, Chip, if it's all right. We had those bridge closures when that high wind event happened a couple months ago. Is there any sort of report that we get from VDOT as to how that decision was made? Because it seems like it ended badly in that we had two bridges out for hours, if not the better part of a day. Is there a report, something that explains to us how that decision was made?
The protocol, yes, we have a protocol. We actually are updating it based on some of the things that we want to get consistent across the district. But we do have protocol for the Norris, West Point, Lower Delaware locally of when we decide to close the bridge. But we are all working on a more widespread protocol that everyone will follow the same type of protocol. I said that twice, but yeah, we're working on that. So I can send you what we do now, and then once we have something in our final form for the policy for the district, I can send it to you.
I would like to be kept apprised, and I think if you just send it
Yeah.
to Matt, that'll get to...
I mean, currently, currently, the bridge is posted not to cross when it's 45 miles an hour sustained. So, at 35, we put the caution signs on sustained, and 45, we don't recommend people crossing. So that all will change probably when the new stuff comes out.
Is there a local anemometer at the bridge?
We have one, we check it.
Yep, thanks.
Yep, and we're also adding cameras to the lower part of the bridge, if you see any work going on over there, to monitor the traffic and what's going on, and we're also going to be doing some other things to make sure that overweight vehicles aren't crossing the bridge as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce, and I'm glad you're not out on medical leave anymore.
I am too. Glad to be back.
Keep feeling better. All right, I see in the Amen pew, Dr. Peter Gretz. Talk to us about some school matters.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members, Mr. Walker, Ms. Muncy. I'm here to process a very quick appropriation. I think it'll be a very simple matter, but before we get into that, I do want to, on behalf of the school board, to express to you, this board, and to Mr. Walker and Ms. Muncy, our very sincere and very humble appreciation for your support of the school board's request. I know that there were 2 motions offered. I was here, and I know that there was very rich discussion among those 2. I was very encouraged that both of them included full support, and so, of the school's budget. And so I thank you for that. More importantly, I want to thank you for the process and the partnership that that process represents. I have sat in this room and in other rooms throughout the county, town hall meetings, and I have heard you criticized. There are people who have criticized this board that because you did not reduce the school funds, that maybe the school board just threw out a number and you just took it. And nothing could be farther from the truth. I know because I've been with you. You have asked hundreds of questions, and we've gone through each one exhaustively through our subcommittee meetings that happen routinely, and for every one of those subcommittee meetings, I'd say Mr. Walker and I probably had 10. And they have made me a better superintendent. Through answering those questions and responding to those issues together, I feel like it's forged a partnership between this board and the school board. And again, I just want to thank you for that. I think that, frankly, it's a model for other divisions to understand how decisions between these 2 entities should be made. And I'm honored to be a part of it.
Dr. Pete?
Yes, sir.
Can I elaborate on that remark? We have been known to be pulled aside at the VACO conference every year and asked about our budget process and how we work through the budget process by other counties. What Dr. Pete has said is correct. I mean, it is a very viable method to engage both boards in having a voluminous amount of discussion, to be sure, but a greater understanding between the boards. So I just want to
Absolutely.
echo what Dr. Pete just said with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to add that,
Yes.
that the first budget committee, it was my pleasure to serve on, and to serve on the second one, and I guess this is the third one now. But meeting almost monthly throughout the entire year to go over the wants and needs helps both boards understand both the revenue side and the school's need for funds. And it keeps us from getting to loggerheads as soon as the budget season comes upon us, because that's after having only been through 3 of them, I don't look forward to next year's already, because it's just a lot of stuff. But it's worthwhile, and I think that the budget committee, which is John Koontz and myself this year, I think that very much aids the process.
I agree. Thank you. Absolutely. So along those lines of partnership, I also want to take a minute just to thank you for your engagement in our schools. Many of you are in our schools routinely, and I just want to continue to encourage that. And one of the ways I thought I would do that is to distribute, if I could.
Yep.
And I certainly have copies of this for members of the community if they'd like to see. It's just a list of dates of some upcoming events that are happening in our schools that I'd love for you to, certainly have an open invitation anyway. But I'd love for you, if you'd like to be a part of any of these, to feel free to do so. And if specifically you'd like for me to meet you at one of these events, and maybe we would explore it together, I'm more than happy to do that too. Please give me a call. Some of them are, I think most of them are self-explanatory. I've put a little description of what some of them are that you may be less familiar with, but a lot of these events are great opportunities for us to highlight our kids' accomplishments and for our community members to interact with you in our schools. So please take a look at that, and if any of those are interesting to you, just show up or give me a call if I can join you at them. One in particular that is not on here, one of the things that we do in the spring to prepare students for the SOL test is called SOL Trivia. And you know that I am not a supporter of the SOL test as a measure of learning. It is a good measure of content acquisition. It is. And so this is a great way for community members who go into classrooms to do a little trivia game. The kids are all ready for it. It's all laid out very smoothly. If you sign up to do it, you go in, you do it, it's fun, and the kids love it. And so if you want to sign up for that, please call me and I'll coordinate that. Also, If by chance you're available Thursday at 11, I happen to be doing one, I'd love for you to show up at the elementary school and join me. Just come to the classrooms with me, and we'll do it together. It's so much fun, and I know the kids would love to interact with you and to meet you and to see you in that regard. So, a couple quick pieces of good news. You may have seen our Odyssey of the Mind team, Sinclair Walker Middle School Odyssey of the Mind team. It's a challenge-based, STEM-related, experiential learning, performance-based activity. It's hosted regionally and then statewide, and for the second year in a row, our middle school has won the state tournament and now is going to the world competition. Last year it was in Michigan, this year it's in Iowa. This is an incredible honor for Middlesex. Not that this matters, and I hope this won't be in the paper. I will tell you, there aren't any teams in Henrico who made it to the States, nor West Point.
What was that last one?
Yes, you heard correctly. And again, not that that matters. But what we compete against teams, we beat teams from Virginia Beach, from Fauquier, from Fredericksburg, large resource divisions.
Arlington, Loudon,
Yes.
Prince William.
Those are the ones.
Sure.
Yep. And you can actually find the results online. So I just will tell you, it's a wonderful opportunity for our kids, so they'll be traveling to that. Also, another piece of good news, one of the positions that was funded in our recent request, it's a new position, well, it's a position that was cut a couple years ago that we brought back. It's the career and technical ed position at the high school. That is a difficult position to fill, both because of the shortage of people who are going into teaching in general, and specifically the shortage of people who come with those credentials. And I'm very happy to report that just last week, we received a verbal acceptance of a job offer. Hasn't gone to the school board yet. I haven't brought that recommendation, so we don't get ahead of ourselves. But we do have somebody who we feel very good about, who's already accepted the position, and we're confident that that's going to work out well for us. I credit an early budget process for our ability to even offer a position, the increased support for improved compensation, and frankly, some aggressive pursuit of candidates on behalf of our HR folks. So that's very positive for us. That was one that I was delighted that we had in our budget and very scared that we wouldn't be able to find somebody. So with that, I guess finally the order of business that really brings me here, the appropriation request. We had, unfortunately, well, thankfully, without kids in the car, but unfortunately, one of our cars was rear-ended in Richmond, and a little bit of damage. And so an insurance company is providing some money, and we are simply asking that you take that money from the insurance company and appropriate it into this purchase services line so that we can procure the services to repair that vehicle. Any questions that you have, I'll be glad to entertain.
Just wanted to comment on the Odyssey of the Mind. They actually presented at Rotary this morning, and one of the things that really stuck with me was Kathy Ruark basically was saying that when we go to states at this point, we have a reputation. People know all about St. Clair Walker at the state tournament.
You sure do.
And I just think that's really neat, having just attended a St. Clair Walker
It is.
roadside marker. I mean, there's some cool things going on in Middlesex Public Schools.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'll tell you, if you look at the Middlesex Public Schools Facebook page, we'll have actually a video at some point the next day, it may actually already be on there, a video of their challenge, one of their challenges that you can see.
All right, sir, we have, that would be FY 2018-32. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve appropriation FY 2018-32.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So ordered.
I'd like to say,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, say-
Yes, you, sir.
I'd like to commend you and your staff for the historical marker. It was a great program, and I appreciate the shirts and everything that you did for the program.
Well, thank you so much. I agree. It was a delight to be a part of it and a great thing for Middlesex and for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And just so that you know, also, in your disbursements that you approved earlier was a contribution to the schools for the Odyssey of the Mind.
Okay.
It comes out of that, the line item that you have in your budget to help fund school, state
Transportation.
sponsored,
Yeah.
activities like that. So it's going towards their hotel and all of that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great.
All right, now we'd ask Mr. Greg Harrow if he'd like to come up and give us a presentation on the solar at the schools.
Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ms. Munson, Mr. Walker. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to come and make this request. I have some handouts. I think Mr. Walker said the stuff made it to the packet. But if we could-
If the packet could make it to the screen.
Right. Toss these around. We are more than excited to get this project rolling. Currently, they have gotten their trailer in place, and we're starting to see some fencing go up. All the silt fence has been made. Unfortunately, during the preliminary review from VDOT, they did not notice the exact bore line that was going to cross 33, and they have since come back with a requirement. I don't think you guys got this. I sent it to Matt, but it says, Middlesex County Public Schools, in response to the proposals by Sun Tribe, is requesting to dig a second underground connection pit as a result of the latest VDOT review. I don't need to go into that any further. Basically, what this is asking from you guys, the land that we are going to be utilizing to go underneath of Philpott Road and onto the county land where the ballpark resides, they originally were only going to need to dig one interconnection line underground. They dig about a 6-foot by 6-foot wide hole, 3 to 4 feet deep, make the connection, cover it back up, re-side it, put straw on it. You never know that it happened. Now, in option D, as you'll see on your screen, they're requesting to go a perpendicular bore, the first orange line that you see coming from match line C4, C41. You'll see that bore is now perpendicular versus the grade outline that we used to have. There's the grade outline. So they're making us go perpendicular. Unfortunately, we can't make the 500-foot limit with the wire in order to go to that second underground connection. So they're requesting we be able to dig a second underground connection right there. Because the turn there is so severe, they're actually proposing an 8-foot by 8-foot wide hole, approximately 3 to 4 foot deep, to be able to make the long sweep. They'll then come in there and make the underground connection and move forward to the secondary connection box, which has already been approved, and then we'll move over to our piece of land there. I guess I will entertain any questions you guys might have.
Yeah, that line goes from what to what?
That line goes from the north array site. If you look at the second sheet handout that I gave you guys, you'll notice 2 arrays. And if we had a compass rose there, we'd say north and south. The north array actually is going to supply current to the middle school. And for us to be able to provide that current to get to the middle school, we've got to have an underground connection line of copper to get to our power source. And so that line is going to be bored under the road and then bored through county property, and we'll trench most of it on our side. But that piece of copper wire has got to connect into our Dominion service.
You don't just go back to the power grid.
Say that again?
You don't just go back to the power grid that supplies both schools.
I'm not quite sure I get what you're asking me, Mr. Mansfield.
Can I try?
Yes.
So there's 2 arrays. Both are located behind the elementary school. They have 2 separate interconnection points. So the one that's to the south ties in at the transformer at the elementary school. The northern one behind the elementary school has to bore all the way under Philpott Road and go back to the transformer and switchgear at the middle school. So you have 2 customers that are building generators, and they have to bring wires back to their electrical rooms to tie in. Does that make sense?
Right. But that is the common for the from the power company.
When you ask if we're going back to the grid, in a way, yes, but how that happens is we tie in on the customer side of the meter.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes those electrons will
Right.
flow back to the grid, and sometimes they'll go right to our loads, depending on what our loads are and what the generation is. But that's how we tie it in.
And the meter runs in both directions.
It's digital, but yes, in theory.
Yeah.
And all Greg's looking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because of one of the permitting processes, they discovered they need to be perpendicular to the road, so they're changing the course ever so slightly so that
Right.
they can meet that requirement. And Greg's just going through the diligence of making sure we're all on the same page.
Agreed.
That
Thank you.
I do.
Mr. Hope.
Questions. Are these underground cables considered private, or are they utility?
They are private, but they are recognized. They're actually registered under the NEC through SunTribe Solar. So they will be registered as lines that will need to be marked per se.
This is what I was getting at. This utility will come out and...
Yes, they'll be registered. There will be registered lines. So they've made the application process. Unfortunately, they can't follow through until VDOT puts their signature on it for them to fulfill the entire application. But yes, they are registered lines.
Now, I'm not sure who I'm asking this next question of, but since the cable is crossing county property, do we need to grant permission for that?
Yes, sir, you do.
All right, then, the chair would entertain a motion for the school system to be able to run their cable across county property. Pete Mansfield says he will not vote for that. Oh, you vote for that. Second. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to thank Greg for all the diligence. This is extra work for him, essentially, when we put a big project like this together, and he and his staff have done a great job of accommodating SunTribe, and even all the teachers that have been coming out and showing an interest in this project.
Right.
So I appreciate all your work.
I appreciate you guys' support. Thank you very much.
All those in favor of allowing the schools to drill across county property, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So ordered. Greg, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
This, by putting this system in, is costing our county virtually nothing, I believe.
Nothing.
And it will return to us over the next 25 years around $1 million. I believe I'm correct on that.
If not more.
So it's a really good thing for our county.
I need to get in line for some.
I can hook you up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
I'll give you a coupon.
Next item is report only, pages 53 through 55 from Social Services. Moving on to regular agenda items, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bruce D. Simone to give us an update on the Middlesex Foundation. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. When I was preparing for my presentation, it occurred to me that it wasn't been since January that I've been before you, so I thought before I get into the details of my update, I just thought I'd refresh folks' memory on what this is all about, and particularly since Ms. Weinhardt is new to the board. We started out, the Middlesex Foundation, looking for a housing site, 16 to 24 units.
Bruce,
and
do you want the clicker?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we initially dismissed Cook's Corner as not really being residential friendly, but then we learned what the Rappahannock Oyster Company folks and the Economic Development Authority were working on with their brew pub and other improvements. And all of a sudden, it put Cook's Corner at the top of the list as far as potential housing. And so the first slide that you have in your report, you'll see on the north side of 33, behind the Cook's Corner Administration Building, the county owns about 13.7 acres of land, and we're looking at roughly the left side of that for a potential housing site, and on the right side, nature park, but also an interpretive park with signage that probably either focus on the history of St. Clair Walker and what went on at that site, or the history, or the history of the African American community here in Middlesex. So 24 units of housing. On the bottom part, you'll see the old St. Clair Walker building relocation site. We're actually talking about, and this is Rappahannock Oyster, moving the vocational building, which is that L-shaped building in right here, moving it over to here and doing a brew pub. Then they're also looking at taking the old Rappahannock Central Elementary School cafetorium and using the commercial kitchen, updating that for seafood preparation for export, and also for the restaurant business, as well as using the auditorium, the cafetorium portion for special event seating. If this is the housing site, you can see the buses here, and then there's also the drive that goes around. So part of this Vibrant Communities Initiative application has us looking, us and the school board and the county looking at possibly relocating that bus maintenance facility and demolishing that. That along with the movement of the vocational building would increase the amount of parking, not only for the schools, but also for the potential, the park area that we're talking about here. When we got involved in this, we realized the county had already been looking at making improvements and had improvements in the capital improvements plan. And so all of a sudden, this all came together in a Vibrant Communities Initiative application for which we submitted an application for $2.25 million. Total overall costs are roughly 13.8, and I think there's a sheet in there in your board packet. What really makes this work, in addition to what Rappahannock Oyster Company is doing, is the provision of public water and sewer. I would not have wanted to put a housing project on a well and a septic system, given the limited useful life of a septic system, so the public water and sewer really pushed this over the top. These are just some plats of the same information. That's the far north of the 13.7 acres. This is a little more detail of what is at that existing point. The county had already had monies in the capital improvements plan for doing some renovations to the gymnasium. And also, we've got in there looking at adding some windows on the school board social services office. Our vision is you've got residential young professionals living here probably about 200 feet. You've got the Tom Carter Gym that's conceivably available for reprogramming of physical activities. Then you've got a park area here. All of a sudden now we have the components of a really attractive residential site. There's just a depiction of what the south side, south of Route 33 would look like with the old St. Clair Walker, the vocational school relocated adjacent to the RCE cafetorium, which then creates a little park-like setting there for some outdoor seating that Rappahannock Oyster Company is looking at doing. The second item, well, let me pause here. The second item I think that was in your board packet was excerpts from overall project description. It was an excerpted from our application that was submitted January 31st. Please disregard the numbers though, because we, when the state came and visited with us on March 27th, they had asked us for updates, and we had updated some of those cost figures because after we submitted the application January 31st, Rappahannock Oyster Company, Michelle Brown, and the EDA folks were continuing to work on a industrial revitalization fund application for $600,000 to aid with repurposing those two vacant buildings. So the numbers had changed. As I mentioned, we submitted our application on January 31st. Ours was among 10 applications submitted. Out of those 10, though, only 3 were selected for site visits, which means we were in the running ahead of the others. And we had that site visit on March 27th, and Mr. Chairman, I think you were successful in conveying the transformational nature of this project for Middlesex County.
Transformational is the key word.
Yes, sir. We learned on April 25th that we should learn by the end of this week on what, if anything, we're going to require with a full application. What we submitted in January is a pre-application. They review them, they do the site visits, and then they come back and say, we want you to fix this, we want you to do that, and then give us a time frame on when we have to complete that full application. And so we should hear by the end of this week. We believe that Just judging from the questions and the body language at that March 27th meeting, I think the folks from the Department of Housing and Community Development and other agencies were very favorably impressed. And I want to thank Mr. Jesse and you, again, Mr. Holt, for your participation. Gordon White, the EDA chair, also presented and showed their support for the project, as did Mr. Chambers in the Middlesex Water Authority. Mr. Goforth from the school board was present, and Dr. Gretz gave a great talk. And then Matt, Michelle Brown, and Rebecca Morgan were also participated. So all in all, what we showed was the entire community was really, from various aspects, was really behind this project. So what we've been doing since that March 27th site visit, Bay Design Group, which is the surveyor and civil engineer company that we've hired, has completed their boundary and topographic surveys, and for that 13.7 acres. At some point, we would look at drawing a line, depending on what is the developable land and what really ought to go into a park area, and then look at subdividing that. And part of that analysis is what they call a development constraint analysis, which is what Bay Design is doing now. Steep slopes, wetlands, and other environmental factors that would dictate what is developable and what isn't. The information that Bay Design has been gathering now has been forwarded to our architect, who's then doing some preliminary site planning and preliminary housing design. On April 20th, thanks to Mr. Gretz, or Mr. Kretz, your planning and zoning administrator, he gathered information on the adjacent landowners, and we sent letters to all the adjacent landowners, inviting them to a May 9th public information session that we're going to be holding. We also are inviting the St. Clair Walker Steering Committee trustees to that, and there's going to be an article in this Thursday's Southside Sentinel, hopefully. We've asked for a notice inviting the general public to that meeting on May 9th at 4:30 in the community public meeting room at the Cook's Corner office complex. We've done 2 surveys. We've surveyed the 16 units over at Mercer Place, and we've gotten survey responses back just telling us how they like living there. If they had to do it all over again, what would they change, both for the buildings, their unit layouts, as well as the exterior amenities. That information, again, is going into our architect for design consideration. And we've also initiated an electronic survey among county employees and school board, school employees, and 2 public agencies, Bay Aging and the Community Services Board, an electronic survey monkey, basically asking them, getting information on what they think of the project, also some design ideas, also how far are they commuting, if we were to offer units from 750 to 850, would it be attractive? What are they paying now for rent or mortgage? So this information will help us in not only the design, but also looking at the kind of marketing that we need to do. The May 9th meeting, because Mr. Mansfield it's in his district, we specifically invited Mr. Mansfield, and then Mr. Kuntz, as you know, is on our board of directors, so I understand it gets a little complicated if you have more than 2 supervisors, but I certainly would welcome all of you to join us on May 9th, but I'll leave it up to you to work out the details.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you think more than 3 would want to attend, 3 or more, you could disclose it tonight that you intend to attend, and the media is here.
Well, why don't we just do that, and if 1 or 2 or 3 or more show up, then we're good to go. So we'll just go ahead and say that it's announced so that more than 2 supervisors may attend if it works out.
That would be great. I'd love to have you all. And lastly, let me just indicate, we've been again working with Mr. Kretz and our architect on a possible zoning ordinance amendment text language. Village community doesn't allow us, the Village Community Zoning District doesn't allow us to build what we're looking at, something similar to or comparable to Mercer Place. And so we're tweaking and looking at what we might come back with. But we would like to get the results of the May 9th meeting as well as the survey results that we have out. And so I would expect that we might be submitting an application sometime in June to begin that zoning process. And it would just be a language amendment. Let me conclude with this slide. I think you've seen these numbers because I've quoted them before. Median family income last year, I'd estimated at $65,900. 80% of that for a one-person household, or what they consider low income, last year was $37,450. Fair market rent for a two-bedroom at HUD estimates $973. We just got the new 2018 numbers, and as you can see, median family income increased in the county, but the income for a low income, or 80% of area median income, a one-person household, that income decreased $350. And fair market rent for a two-bedroom unit increased $74 or over 7.6%. So the whole reason we started on this, getting affordable workforce housing here in the county, it appears that the statistics show that dilemma is continuing and reinforces our desire to make this happen. Any questions?
Bruce, on behalf of the board, I'd just like to thank you for all of your diligence in this effort and the committee. And these are indeed exciting and transformational times.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Bruce.
All righty then. Dave Lehman, are you ready to come up with the EMS resolution?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. National Emergency Medical Service Week will be celebrated this year, May 20th through 26, 2018. This celebration began back in 1974 as an opportunity for us all to say thank you to our EMS providers for their service, commitment, and dedication to duty. There are two groups today that I would like to recognize that provide EMS service to our community: Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad and Emergency Services Solution Incorporated. They're our contracted service that assist our volunteers. In just a second, I'll introduce Captain Dennis Mann with the Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad, but since their establishment back in 1956, the members of the Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad have donated many hours of community service to Middlesex County and have saved the taxpayers thousands of dollars. Not only is Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad a dedicated organization in providing the best in EMS, but they're also a great asset to our community. To say thank you to both of these organizations, I've prepared two resolutions for your consideration today. The first to recognize the Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad, and the second to recognize Emergency Services Solution. At this time, I'd like for Captain Manns to come up, please. And I'd also like to publicly recognize Captain Manns for his commitment and his leadership within the organization. Dennis is a tremendous asset. So, Mr. Chairman, I've got two resolutions. Do you want to do them separately, or do you want to vote on them together?
I think we can probably vote on them together.
Okay.
We're going to present the one tonight, right? We don't.
Yes, sir. We do not have Mr. Smith here, so we will take care of getting that document to
Is the
him.
board all right with approving both of them on one vote?
I will need to read both based on the fact that there is different language in each of them.
That's fine.
So to start with, the recognition for the Middlesex County Volunteer Rescue Squad. Whereas President Gerald Ford declared the first National Emergency Services Week in 1974 to recognize and honor the dedication of those who provide the day-to-day life-saving services of emergency medicine's front line, and whereas the Middlesex County Volunteer Rescue Squad was founded in 1956 to serve the emergency medical needs of the citizens of Middlesex County, and whereas access to immediate and quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those experiencing sudden illness or injury, And whereas the Middlesex County Volunteer Rescue Squad faithfully and unselfishly serves the community by providing basic and advanced life support services. And whereas in addition to responding to emergencies in our community, these dedicated members also participate in required training, recertification, apparatus maintenance, fundraising activities, membership recruitments, and the delivery of valuable public education programs to our community. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors that it is hereby publicly recognizes the members of the Middlesex County Volunteer Rescue Squad for their tireless service and selfless dedication and commitment to the fellow citizens and visitors of Middlesex County. That's the first draft for your consideration. Second draft is to recognize the staff of Emergency Services Solutions Incorporated. Whereas President Gerald Ford declared the first National Emergency Services Week back in 1974 to recognize and honor the dedication of those who provide day-to-day life-saving services of emergency medicine's frontline, and whereas access to immediate and the quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness and/or injury, and whereas the staff of Emergency Service Solution Incorporated assist the Middlesex County Volunteer Rescue Squad in providing valuable staffing assistance to its organization, and whereas the staff of Emergency Service Solution Incorporated has integrated into the rescue squad to faithfully and unselfishly serve the members of our community by providing basic and advanced life support services, and whereas in addition to responding to the emergencies in our community, the dedicated members of the Emergency Service Solution Incorporated assist our rescue squad with training, apparatus maintenance, equipment maintenance, and the delivery of valuable public education services to our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors that it hereby publicly recognizes the members of Emergency Service Solution Incorporated for their service, dedication, and commitment to our volunteer rescue squad and the citizens and visitors of Middlesex County.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is your pleasure on these two resolutions?
I move we adopt both resolutions.
Have a motion?
Second.
Duly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Gentlemen, we've got the hard copy of this. If we would like to take advantage of a photo op, David, I'd like you to.
Yes, sir.
Dennis? Yeah. Customary. Thank you so much, sir. Dave, appreciate it. Alrighty, moving down to item C, we have appointments on page 71 through 79. Betty, how do we go through those? Just,
I can
well,
go through them with you, or?
if you would.
All right.
Is it your pleasure to just approve them all in one
Okay.
vote?
You have several appointments that are coming up either from members that are not able to serve on current committees, or their terms have expired or are getting ready to expire. The Board of Building and Code Appeals, we have two members that need to be replaced. Chris Riddick has moved out of the county, and Bill Powell is not able to serve on that committee anymore, and we need to replace those two. You have three people who have expressed an interest in serving on that board. Wayne Savage, Herbert Johnston, and Charles Miller, who, if you
Well,
don't know
since
who...
Mr. Savage has expressed interest in 3 boards,
Serving
and
on
we've got
some.
2 slots, why don't we approve the first 2 that just wanted to be on this board and consider him for one of the other vacancies? Is that a reasonable plan of attack?
Certainly.
Okay, gentlemen, did you? Okay, next.
Okay.
Is that a is that a formal appointment, or do you want to do it all at the end? I think you might want
It's
to
a
do it.
little confusing, we'll probably just do it one at a time.
Okay, so
All right?
Yes.
let's take a vote on that.
Yeah,
All right.
let's do it one at a time.
I move we appoint Wayne, which ones did we say? Charles Miller and Herbert Johnston?
Johnston
Yes.
and Miller.
To the Board of...
To the Board of Building Code Appeals.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion duly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So ordered.
Okay. The only other one that really needs to be done probably now is the Juvenile Detention Commission, and that is to Matt's term as the voting representative on that expires June the 30th, and I'm the alternate. So if you want to go ahead and vote on us to be on
I
that.
move that we appoint Matt Walker and Betty Muncy to the Juvenile Detention Commission in the capacities they currently serve in.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any defense motions?
We would be happy to entertain any other nominee.
I have a question because apparently I was a little bit behind.
Can we?
Miller.
He's been appointed.
Pardon?
They've already appointed him to the Building Code Appeals.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
You sure Pete doesn't want to be on that committee? Because he,
No.
okay.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, so ordered.
Okay. And then you have several other committees whose terms are expiring, most on June 30th. We have gotten some applications in from people that would like to be reappointed to the terms that they had previously held. Gordon White on the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission and David Lawton on the Wetlands Board.
Is there any reason we can't appoint them today, or we just want to leave that
No,
open for more
it's-
time to get more candidates, or?
It is totally up to you. We submitted letters to them telling them that their terms were expiring, and
Yep, I move that we appoint Gordon White to the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission and David Lawton to the Wetlands Board, Saluda District.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
okay.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so ordered.
Okay. And then in June, we'll update this with hopefully people that have submitted applications for the other positions.
Yeah, I think I've got to do mine for the Water Authority, too.
And there should be some coming up for Broadband Authority.
That's great.
All right, item D is budget appropriations and transfer. Betty, can
I
I
think that's me too.
leave that in your wheelhouse?
Yes. Your first appropriation request form is number 30. That is to appropriate a refund that, of a check that was sent out to the wrong vendor, and the Sheriff's Office was finally able to get that back from that vendor.
Understand without a small effort.
With some encouragement, yes. So we would like to reappropriate that back into their vehicle repair line.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to take these one by one?
I think we do them all together.
Okay.
Okay. The next one, number 31, is appropriating a grant fund that was received from the Department of Emergency Management. I believe that was a hazmat grant for $7,500. The next one is actually from the Cooperative Extension. And this is a budget transfer request where they would like to move some monies around to put more funding into their 4-H educational supplies. So they have asked that they be able to move $100 from other operating supplies and then $600 from their dues line into the 4-H educational supplies. And in that memo from them, you'll also see that they're requesting a change in their 2019 budget, their FY 2019 budget. So in June, I'll be bringing another request to you to change some monies around in that. But this is for FY 2018.
Thank you, Betty. Do we have a motion
There's
on
one
this?
more.
Is there another?
There's one more.
Okay,
Yep,
all right.
it's another budget transfer request. This is for our department to take some monies out of contingency and put into the county admin professional services line to pay a bill that we received from Bay Design Services for on survey work on the Cook's Corner project.
I move that we approve transfer requests 2018-30, 31, 5, and 7.
Should we delineate those
It's
as appropriations
The
and
first
budget
two-
requests?
Yeah, the first two were appropriations.
First two were appropriations.
30 and 31 being appropriations, 5 and 7 being budget requests.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. So ordered. All right, on page 85, we addressed the subject of grounds maintenance. We've been unable to do things the way we've been doing them with inmates and employee of the Sheriff's Department. We're going to have to go out on bid, or we have gone out on bid for the yard work. So what is your pleasure on yard maintenance? 2 bids were received. One for $18,200 from Affordable Lawn Care, and one for $14,750 from Garnet Hill Lawn Care. And as much as we don't have a scope of work in front of us, I guess the chair would entertain a motion to go with the low bid.
Are they both local contractors?
Yes, they are.
Local to Middlesex?
Yes,
Middlesex residents.
yes.
Yeah. So if they're both Middlesex residents, I would like to make a motion that we go with low bids.
Which would be Garnet Hill Lawn Care.
I can read what the scope of work was, if you like.
Well, if they both, I don't think it's necessary if they both answered it. I was just saying that we didn't have it right here.
Is this a monthly, I mean, let's say
It's-
Garnet doesn't do well, how do we get out of this?
We could certainly, if they don't fulfill the contract, we would put
We
into
just
the,
don't pay them.
we would put, into the contract what they're required to do, and if they don't do that, then we would cancel the contract.
That's what I'm saying is I'm not seeing the contract.
We haven't written the contract,
Okay.
but I have the scope of work.
Yeah, I can speak to that
And-
briefly if you'd like.
And I do
Mr. Chair.
have cancellation of contract, in the scope of work, it included this contract may be canceled by either party upon the filing of a written notice of 30 days prior to the date of cancellation.
So we have a motion from Pete to go with
With the low
Garnet?
bid.
And can we add to that it's following the recommendation of the administrator that we do so with a contract for 1 year of service?
Sure.
Are you okay with adding that, Pete?
I'd like that.
If it hasn't been seconded, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just had a question about whether this included any snow removal, or if that's done separately.
It does not include any snow removal.
May I ask, what is done during the winter?
We have, we would use inmates then to clear sidewalks, but the parking lots normally were done by a private contractor.
No, I mean, what, for their lawn services and the edging, the grass cutting and all that, what are they doing during the winter?
Oh,
Or is it
what are
just,
they
it does,
doing
it's
during-
really not a monthly $850, or not $850,
well,
whatever it comes to.
Um,
It's a month, they get paid monthly,
They had
but most
asked-
of the work would be
We gave them as
March
an
to
option that
November,
they
or
could
something like
divide it
that.
up. Yes.
Okay.
They gave us a total lump sum contract.
Got it.
Or bid, with an option that we could pay them monthly
Got it.
throughout the year.
Do we have a sense as to how many hours were put in by the inmates that we could try to figure out if these are, I mean, the two numbers that we got are fairly close, but we don't know if they're an order of magnitude off of what they should be in any direction, because we don't know how many hours we were putting in under our previous.
Wasn't our expense somewhere near $850 time we paid the deputy and he bought lunches and did the other expenses? So that-
$850 a month?
$850 a month.
Yeah, so that'd be $9,400 a year, but that doesn't include equipment or fuel,
That's right.
That was ours.
which,
I don't think I need any further
Yeah.
information there.
I think it's pretty favorable. All right, we have a motion and a second. We done with discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so ordered. All right, item F, we have appropriation resolutions for fiscal year 19 budgets, county budget and school budget. We got actionable on that. Ms. Betty?
Thank
Mr.
I was just waiting for you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have in your packet the appropriation resolution necessary to appropriate the budget that was adopted last Thursday evening on the 26th, both for the county and the schools. If there are any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Lady and gentlemen?
No question.
In that case, Madam County Attorney, is it proper to approve both the county and the schools in one fell swoop, or do we take them separately?
I would prefer them separate if that's
I
okay.
think you have a request to lump sum fund the school budget that you may want to deal with too, and I would recommend you take those individually.
Okay, so we will take item I, the county budget, as presented and appropriated. If we have a motion to
I
accept
move
that.
that we approve it.
Move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay.
I move that we approve the school budget.
All right, the one item that, let me see, page 91. We had been asked to do this in a lump sum to the schools, and I discussed this with several board members, and we felt that keeping it in categories would be appropriate for this year, so.
And Mr. Chairman, if I'd add, hearing the consensus of the board on that, this resolution was prepared for categorical appropriation.
Very good. So we have a motion on the school budget. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So ordered. All righty, moving along to county attorney updates. Ms. Lewis.
Well, we couldn't even fit all my pages in the packet. I've got, no, don't worry. I do have two things for today. So first thing is a thank you to the board. As you know, I attended my spring local government attorneys conference in Roanoke in April. And as my previous conferences have been, it was really informative. It's a great opportunity for me to meet other county attorneys, but also to hear some really good presentations. I heard everything from case law update, which there were some funny laws that did not pass, one of which Dr. Gretz might even have heard about, where they wanted to advertise on school buses to generate some revenue, but it couldn't be anything in the advertisement about like anything that didn't meet the school nutritional guidelines, and nothing about tobacco, pharmaceuticals, or anything that has sexually. So pretty much what were you going to advertise about? I mean, you couldn't have Coke or any soda, anything. It basically would have been for fruit and bread, I think is the only thing.
And lettuce.
And
I
lettuce,
guess, yeah.
and lettuce. So
Not romaine lettuce.
right, yeah. So it was interesting to hear some of the bills that passed and also to hear what didn't pass. I do appreciate Richmond coming up with some creative revenue streaming. I just don't know about advertisement on the school bus, but anyway, that did not pass. I heard things about procedural issues with zoning, procurement law, and one of the really interesting discussions was economic development, and these microbreweries are popping up everywhere in Virginia, and how localities are dealing with them and what they can do to be more supportive of the businesses. And so anyway, it was a very good conference, so thank you very much for supporting me in that. I sent a memo out kind of giving you my like quick oversight of what I learned. If you'd like any of my materials, please reach out to me. So second item is actually, I'm putting y'all to work. I have an action item. And Mr. Kretz is here, your zoning administrator. But as the board will recall, when you talked about adopting the lodging tax, staff advised you that we would most likely need to initiate a zoning ordinance amendment so that we could better align our zoning ordinance with the lodging tax. And so what staff is asking you today, and I've discussed this with the county administrator, the zoning administrator, and the Commissioner of Revenue's office, we would ask that you take a formal action to initiate an ordinance amendment to allow staff to bring your zoning and align with your lodging tax. Really what this has to do with is that in order for Commissioner of Revenue to keep track of all this, they issue business licenses if the short-term rental qualifies, which is how numerous other localities do it. In order to get a business license, you have to be approved in zoning. And so we've got a little conflict there in which the definition for these rentals is very narrow, and we need to expand that. So we're asking that you approve staff to begin working on that, to get a recommendation, to let it go through the process, and then hopefully be presenting it to you in July. It'll have to go through the ordinance committee, planning commission, and then you. So it'll be fully vetted by the time it gets to you.
But as we discussed, this would be an amendment allowing only for the rental of properties to be licensable in a neighborhood. This would not allow a business or another function to come in there just because somebody had a business license to do, say, an Airbnb. So if anybody had any concerns about that, it doesn't open it up to somebody putting a tire recap in place or a welding shop in a neighborhood. It simply allows for the zoning and the lodging tax to marry one another and work. Because we've got, particularly in the lower end of the county, we've got literally hundreds of cottages that rent by the week, by the month, whatever, and we wouldn't be able to capture those if we couldn't get the business license for them. So,
Do we need a motion right now?
yes.
Yes, we do. And also, just to add, sorry, one other point. This is already happening in your county, and now by passing the lodging tax, this will allow you to collect the revenue from it. So just want to make sure and Mr. Walker, your county administrator, wanted to add on that.
Just one quick thing. We think the best way to fix this is actually doing a definitional amendment under bed and breakfast.
Potentially.
Very simple definitional amendment. But the planning commission will kind of review that and get language to you. The way the public hearing process would unfold, if the planning commission started their process this month, they would technically or feasibly have a public hearing on the zoning change in June, which means you would hear it in July. What we would ask is you allow staff to advertise for the Board of Supervisors public hearing July 3rd based on the outcome of the Planning Commission's process in June.
So that would need to be also part of your motion, please.
Did you catch that?
You know what, I've done most of the motions, I'm gonna let somebody else have that one. I think in all seriousness, though.
I move that we accept
Do you do an
the
ordinance
recommendations of our attorney.
Direct staff to do an ordinance.
amendment and to send it to public hearing for July? Thank you.
Second, here.
We have a motion duly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Chairman.
ordered. Thank you.
And that concludes all of my items.
All righty then. And we move into item 8, county administrator items.
Mr. Chairman, I have 3 items. 2 are in my report, and I just want to highlight them. And I have one new one, and I'd like to handle the new one first, if I may. You may recall seeing the lovely and gracious county treasurer with us earlier this evening, and she wanted to come and ask the board to repeat their support of the Flags for Heroes program. I figured that might be what it was regarding, so I snuck over there beside her and let her off for the rest of the afternoon. This is a program that we supported last year with Rotary to honor our veterans on Memorial Day. What my recommendation would be is we look what we did last year, which I actually can't recall what we did last year, but we can look and see what our level of sponsorship was last year and do the same this year, if it's the board's will to do so.
Gentle people, what is your pleasure? I'm afraid Mr. Coons is all out of motions.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I'm quiet here is I'm part of the Rotary Club, so
understand.
I'm just gonna stand down on this one.
And I'm sorry to spring this on you. We weren't aware that she was going to bring the request until today. And of course, this occurs on Memorial Day, so it has to happen today.
All right, at this point, we...
Mr. Chairman, I propose that we make the same contribution that we made last year, and at the same time say thank you very much.
Very good. Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So ordered.
Last 2 items ahead, Mr. Chairman, is you have a revised draft of the B-poll ordinance. I think we emailed that to you, and there is a draft at your seat. The business license tax ordinance in front of you contains some minor changes that were affected by the Commissioner of Revenue's office. So they wanted to take a a review of it as well before we send the document to public hearing. A couple of items that they fixed within the ordinance. One, they made the ordinance a little bit more easier to interpret and added better clarity to the document. They made several additions and sections, rewording some of the language to promote better understanding of the ordinance, and they've given some examples of that. Page 2, section on contractors. Page 3, section on gross receipts and professionals. Page 4, section 4. Page 6 and 7, section 7. Page 13 are all examples of that. And last, they gave some explanation of different categories that have been expanded for clarity and classifying of businesses. Since the ordinance has not been revised since, I think it was 2005, I believe, they thought that we needed to give it a little bit more of a touch while the board was considering the public hearing on raising the rates to the regional averages, which the board's already authorized staff to do. It's staff's intention upon board approval to send this document to public hearing at the June meeting.
Very good. Does that conclude your remarks in record time?
And we can do that with consensus. And I wasn't quite done. I have one more item.
You paused.
The board had directed staff to contact the Department of Forestry and Department of Conservation and Recreation regarding review of the forestry and the open space aspects of the land use taxation program. Both Dean Cumbia and Sarah Richardson are available to attend a work session of the board on May 17th at 6 p.m. if it is the board's desire to do so. And that concludes my remarks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would remind you that we would then have a meeting at 6 o'clock on the 17th. Is that available to people's calendars?
Can we try to, this land use, I'm just having a hard time understanding it, and I appreciate staff bringing in these experts on timber and forestry, but for me, the problem starts before the experts come in. I still want to understand what data the Commissioner of Revenue's office is collecting. I'd like another bite at that apple. I don't think I learned anything from previous meetings, and I still don't feel like I have a good grip on how we're collecting, what we're collecting. I'm getting it when the experts tell us how it's supposed to work and how the SLEAC recommendations work. All of that I'm starting to get versed in. I still don't understand how we are doing it in Middlesex County.
Very good.
And I'd
I
like
think
to,
we've got a two-pronged problem, because what we're trying to do is to get of a mind of whether 800 is the right figure for agriculture or whether SLEAC is. And we've been educated on that to a point that I think we could probably have a consensus on that at some point in the near future. But we need to also do that on forestry and open space. So,
Well, Mr. Chairman.
and I'm with you. I want to see the same information that you want to see, because how much difference does it make if it's one way or the other?
Sure, I'm still not confident that I understand what the numbers are, and I'd like to see it in writing. Here is what we're doing, and, I mean, I can see what SLEAC recommended for our county, but I don't understand what we're doing.
What I could try to arrange is a work session of the Budget and Finance Committee with the Commissioner of Revenue's office prior to the 17th.
Okay.
I would like
One afternoon. And of course, we'd let the media know when we schedule that. I can work with the Commissioner on that and get back to the board on it.
For further conversation in this same vein, if we were to decide to go from the 800, which is not exactly 800, I'm not sure what that number is after having had some conversation in that area. But if we were to decide to go from whatever that is to SLEAC, for instance, it's my understanding we would have to wait for another 2 years.
I think it's actually not our decision. I mean, that's the Commissioner of Revenue's decision to make.
Any adjustments to valuations need to occur during a reassessment year. The board does have some flexibility on amendment of the ordinance to ask for increased validation.
Yes, but can't we ask that the way we evaluate it is via SLEAC?
It would constitute a revaluation, I believe. I'm going to default and probably say no, because anything adjusting the values of the program, it's my understanding, has to be done during a reassessment year. It's not to say we have to wait 2 years to do another reassessment. We just completed one.
Second question, which is sort of the same as that one.
Yeah.
What if we close down the program and reevaluate, reopen it?
I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking if the board repealed the program?
Yes.
Could you then take the time and
then in the
reevaluate?
Same meeting, reopen it with our request to go to SLEAC?
That would be something I would bump up to the county attorney's office for a little study and thought. It is my understanding the board can repeal the program. That would be is tantamount to an ordinance amendment. You would be abolishing the ordinance, but.
But if you did something that changed the value and didn't do it in an assessment year,
Yeah.
that to me seems to be just a way to try to get around that.
That would be a way to try to
I wouldn't recommend that, sir.
The statute still doesn't change, though. The legislation says the only person who can determine the value of your property and land use is either an assessor, which means the board can hire an assessor,
Right.
or the commissioner of revenue. Those are the only two people that get to decide those values for this specific program.
And not to add more unnecessary detail to the discussion, but we do have some new members on the board. The Board of Supervisors and several counties around us have had discussions in the past about engaging either a part-time shared tax assessor position that's employed by the counties and shared by the counties to do what's I refer to as a regional rolling reassessment. That's still very much being discussed, but no concrete plans to move forward with that at this time.
I think if we just get a meeting with Bonnie and
Absolutely.
discuss as a committee, and, you know, I don't think we're in a position to represent what the board thinks is the correct valuation to be using, but I think we certainly can suggest that we'd like to have better understanding of the data and how it's collected and how she's coming to her determination as to what to use in the face of the SLEAC data.
Agreed.
I mean, I think she has every right, based on her constitutional office, to set it at whatever she wants to, but I don't think she should be offended if we're just asking, how did you come to those numbers? That's where I'm at.
No, I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, one question that that I would propose be answered too in that kind of session is how long the current rates have been in effect, because I think I don't think it's clear. And I think the context of whether it's revisiting land use or the B-poll tax, I think it's important that this is framed in the responsibility of the board to revisit all of these programs periodically and to make adjustments based on the needs of the county.
Well, with
And
SLEAC,
it's
I
not-
believe we're going to get a reaevaluation every other year. Is that about right?
Right,
I believe,
but
yeah.
that's if a change is made. What I'm
Right.
saying is that that these are relative values that have to be revisited every once in a while, and to make a decision, I think, one way or another, to the extent that it's the board's responsibility to do that, I get that. Because it's clear, too, that if you look at our real estate tax rate and compare it to counties that do not have land use, it makes a significant difference. And relative to counties that do not have land use, we're still quite low on the real estate tax rate.
Very good.
That was all I had, Mr. Chairman.
So if-
Just would need the board to take some action on having the work session on the 17th, so I can finalize that.
Okay.
And make the necessary
We
arrangements.
need a
with the
motion for that, or
meeting.
just consensus that we're available and going to be there?
I think you should have a,
Yeah.
let's just have a motion.
All right.
We'll be over.
Chair will entertain a
cautious.
motion for us to have a work session on the 17th.
So moved.
Motion duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, so ordered. All right, for unfinished business, I'll start on my left side with Mr. Mansfield. Any unfinished business?
I don't think so. I don't have any.
Mr. Jesse?
No, I don't have any.
I don't have any. John?
I do not.
Kathy?
No, sir.
All right, Kathy, in reverse order, new business. Start with you.
I do not have
None.
business.
Mr. Coons?
Just, no, I do not have new business.
None for me. Mr. Jesse? Mr. Mansfield?
All righty, supervisor comments and reports. I guess keeping in the same order, we'll start to my left with Mr. Mansfield. What do you have to report? Beg your pardon?
None here.
None here.
Yep.
I just attended the Peninsula Planning District meeting. We did have a presentation from Robert Crockett from Advantage Strategies, and he did discuss about a lot of the bills that, you know, with the General Assembly that they passed, and we also have some problem with dredging, so he's looking at some of those bills on that, and he always said that it's good that Keith Hodges is looking out for the Middle Peninsula in the area there. So let's see what else did you say on that. He talked some about stormwater and rural developments, and then also groundwater in Potomac, Africa, like as Peter's always talking about. But majority of the bills that they went through, they did get some. The majority of them went past that he got through. And that's it for me. Other than I know I have a Orchard Festival Foundation meeting Thursday, on the Thursday. That's it for my. Oh yeah, I'd like to also say that I did attend the Bayport Scout Camp that we went up there in Jamaica. That was. I've been there to the main one, the main office, been the main place there, but I didn't realize all the other amenities that they had around in that camp. And also we discussed that too, St. Clair Walker Historical Marker. That was very educational and very well attended. That's it.
Thank you, sir. I had an airport committee meeting. As you know, there's a engineering study underway for the possibility of lengthening the runway and/or realigning it and lengthening it. So that's work in progress. Very proud of the fact that all 5 of us, plus staff, Matt, all attended the St. Clair Walker Highway Marker celebration. Had emergency services meeting. And I was also with Mr. Jesse for the tour of the Boy Scout camp, and I think Matt called this a spark meeting. Is that what you called it? Anyway, Keith Hodges was there, Louis Lawrence. We had a bunch of staff, Dave Cryer and his wife. Who am I leaving out? That is a well-kept secret in Middlesex County. Is that facility up in Jamaica? It's about 300 acres. They've got a cafeteria and commercial kitchen that can serve 500 breakfasts, lunch, and dinner every day. They've got undercover facilities to sleep about 100 people in their own bunk or bed or whatever. But then when they bring the campers in and they're in their tents, that's another 400. This is back when the Boy Scouts were operating it. And it's just, it's been closed down for about 2 years. The bank has written off the note, and they're entertaining folks that have some ideas. And we just wanted to go look at it and see, because it's 400 linear feet of the prettiest beach in the county. And there's a 1,000-foot long floating dock that goes out to 7 feet of water, which can accommodate a deep keel sailboat. So just, you know, I came home and was telling my wife last night, I was just so excited about it, but I don't know what I'm going to do about it. But maybe somebody will get a spark, and maybe it could be a public-private, I don't know, something for public access or whatever, but it's real interesting facility. And I didn't get the first tick bite as a result of it, so I'm very happy with that. I brought the can off. That's all I have.
I had a slow month. April 11th, I did the solar pre-construction meeting with Sun Tribe Solar behind the elementary school. Same day, I met with Steve Dunkel regarding broadband and encouraged him and maybe 4 others to apply to be on the Broadband Authority. I think we have 4 applications in so far. Had the broadband meeting that I thought was very helpful with Atlantic Broadband and Pete Mansfield. It really helped me as the chair of the Broadband Authority to get up to speed to some extent on what the opportunities are, who the players are, a little more about the technology, etc. I was the MC at the Pride of Middlesex that celebrated our Middle Peninsula YMCA, and that was very enjoyable and a nice evening of fellowship in the community. April 19th, public hearing on the budget. I attended and listened. And it was, I I just want to say to the community and to the Board of Supervisors, I don't think anybody got exactly what they wanted out of this budget season, but I think it was largely amicable. And, you know, I think the school board and the Board of Supervisors are working well together. And I think we're giving the community every opportunity to tell us what their feelings are. So I'm pleased that it's over. April 21st, I did a road cleanup on Town Bridge with the Kiwanis and Rotary clubs. That's been a really enjoyable evolution for me to watch Rotary and Kiwanis recognize that we are a small community, and there are some things that if we do them together will have a bigger impact, and we just sort of learn who all the other philanthropists are in the community. And I think everybody knows how I feel about road cleanup. That's kind of one of my pet peeves. April 24th, I was, as every other supervisor, there at the road marker for St. Clair Walker, and again, what an awesome community experience to see so many diverse parts of our community come together and celebrate some of our history. April 27th, I attended a math class at the high school and helped the teacher sort of coordinate one of his stations in his math class, and it was a very interesting demonstration. They made us come into a team of 4 or 5 students, of which I became a part, and he gave me a piece of paper and it said we're on a race team. And here are all the parameters. There's a big race coming up. You have to make a go, no-go decision of whether you're not going to race. You've had engine failures, engine blown up, blah, blah, blah. Here's all the sponsorship money you might get. And so there were all these things to lay out on the table with these 4 or 5 students at a time. And we did so with 4 different sessions, and on 3 of them we got consensus. 2 of them were racing. 1 of them was not racing, and then the 4th one we had a group where the one kid just wasn't budging. They couldn't get together. And I thought it was really, really interesting. It was the day after our budget discussion, and I brought that up, that this is a real world application that they're learning. Well, in the end, the teacher, who was Mr. Laster, put on the screen a video of the Challenger, and basically said all of the information we had here was identical in terms of the decisions that needed to be made on that day. So coming out of the budget season and hearing, you know, how are our teachers doing, it may be anecdotal, but when I see something like that on just one random occasion in the schools, I feel pretty good about how our teachers are doing. That same day, I then went later in the afternoon to Middlesex Elementary School and met with teachers from the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, and the governor's school. There were about 9 of them. All are interested in incorporating solar into their curriculum based on the experience that we have putting up our own solar array in the backyard of the elementary school. And Sun Tribe, as the EPC in doing the installation, has agreed to help us in potentially seeking grant funding for a program called NEED, and I can't remember what it stands for, but just neat to see the amount of interest in what amounts to extracurricular teaching for these teachers. They see an opportunity, something that's happening on their grounds, and they want to teach to it. It's reminiscent for me of Christ Church talking about location-based learning. No reason we can't do that in public schools as well. Then May 1st, today is May 1st, as a matter of fact. Update to me. I went to Rotary this morning and got to see the Odyssey of the Mine Kids and their teachers. And normally it's when the kids come in that you focus on the kids, but this time it was the 2 teachers, Kathy Ruark and Claire Evans. My God, they were beaming more than the children. And there's something to be said when the teachers are that proud of their kids and the kids are doing the things that they're doing. Tomorrow I have a meeting at the jail board, and I intend to talk with them again about how we're going to replace that program, not just because of the savings by having inmates doing the work, but Tim Doss has told me that is an impactful program, and the only reason we're not doing it is because we lost an employee that retired. So I'm really going to implore the jail board to think outside of the box and figure out a way for us to get that program back, again, not just because of the savings, but because we're trying to rehabilitate the region's inmates right here in our backyard, and we're going to end up releasing them into our backyard, and I would hope that they're learning some things that are positive, maybe earning a little money, and that's just a great program that I feel strongly we should support. Sorry I went so long.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the airport committee meeting, and I had the pleasure of a tour of the airport facility this month. And I would add to the comments about the St. Clair Walker dedication, sign dedication. It was a terrific evening, and I want to commend Mr. Briggs for his part in organizing that, as well as the schools and the NAACP giving us the shirts, and the whole thing was just really a great evening. I also attended the Planning District meeting with Wayne, and one notable event, in addition to the reports that Wayne referred to, was that when the executive director was trying to show us a short video relating to broadband and its potential for retaining and attracting millennials to rural areas, the signal cut out, and that was right here in the courthouse. And it was there'd been a little rain that night, but it wasn't, a dramatic event. And so it was just kind of ironic, and drew attention to our need to fix that problem that we have. I've also recently had a tour of Dockside facility and the new addition there, which is an addition of rooms available in our county for nursing and rehabilitation. They have a super physical therapy room, really delightful activities room, and got to meet a lot of the residents there, and just wanted to keep that in the forefront, because without a hospital right next door, they are not as easily available for referral. So it's just something to keep in mind in the county for people who need services, that is a great facility right there in the county. I also wanted to commend River Realm and Michelle Brown and everybody who's working on that. It's showing up in a lot of areas, and a lot of businesses are bringing that on board, and I think it will make a difference. I had a Keep Middlesex Beautiful board meeting, and the issue of using inmates from the jail has impacted the county, picking up the trash over the winter. We have fixed that in terms of some funding, we think, and that's part of what was recently picked up by VDOT. They pick up the bags when volunteer groups or the inmates pick up the trash, and we just want to really keep that going. But it's not a resolved issue at all, picking up the litter. And I'd just like to invite anyone who's available to come by the Arts in the Middle Fine Arts Show, which is at Hewitt Plantation the first weekend in June, Saturday and Sunday. And I hope everybody can come out and enjoy that great event.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there any other business to come before the May meeting of the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Who's got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We gone. All right.